I'm going to tell you a little story about cats and dogs. Okay? Part of my learning process were two things: the proper teachers that taught me and learning the hard way. Now, usually people learn better when they learn the hard way. Am I right? Okay. This story that I'm going to tell you about cats and dogs is going to end up particularly sad. But it happened within my own home. When my wife and I first got together, we moved in, we picked up a German Shepherd named Sarah and a cat, too. We rescued a cat. This cat fell, I don't know, off of an 8-story balcony. It was all busted up. Anyway, we brought Sarah and Thing home, and everything was great. I mean, they were playing, and we used to watch them playing tag in the house. Anybody watch cats and dogs doing that? Well, I'm going to tell you something what was going on there before I truly studied and understood what prey meant and all this other thing. Sarah, and I don't remember the cat, named Boots or something, whatever it was, my wife, Mr. Tibbs, that was it. We're running around for the first year that they were together, and life was good. And then we added Emma, our Rottweiler, into the house, and we had 2 other cats, a gray kitten, and we had a cat named Gray. They were all strays. That's the only way I get my cats. And they were playing, and everything was good. Well, guys, one day I went out, and I came home, and instead of 3 cats, I had 6. What does that mean? Yeah. Okay, why? The dog's focus became so intent on the cat and the prey mechanism kicked in that eventually the obliteration of the high peak of emotion causes the animal to black out. If you watch protection work, it's prey training, and in the fight mode, the dog blacks out for a split second and sees red and doesn't really know what it's doing. That's the thrashing phase. And then the decoy has to stop and tell the dog to release. You cannot tell the dog to release while it's thrashing. Have you guys seen police dog videos and the attacks and how they can't call the dogs off and all that other stuff? That's because the dog's in blackout mode. Well, Sarah was building and building and building without me even realizing, where I thought it was playtime. Okay, and again, that wasn't the end of it. After I had those cats, I had a Manx kitten, and I was ever so careful to make sure that Sarah would not get to the cats, and I would train and get her straight and everything else. Well, I left a Manx kitten, and the door was not locked or latched while I was out and I was on the phone. It took 30 seconds. When I got upstairs, the cat was dead. Okay? Dogs and cats are not mortal enemies. The problem is dogs chase cats and cats run. No different than dogs chase children and children run, and no different than a dog that chases an adult when he's angry, and if you run, he bites. Now, somebody said to me today that we have a cat killer that's coming up, and he likes to also kill groundhogs and squirrels and everything else, woodchucks. When I'm thinking about the behavior that she's been telling me, where did his cat killing problem begin? Yeah, chasing squirrels and woodchucks. He got into the prey mode and realized that with the most primitive instinct, you watch a wolf chasing a rabbit, he focuses and zones in like radar. Even though the rabbit deeks this way, the wolf goes that way. They almost become one, don't they? We use that prey in the training of obedience to instill precision and focus, and use prey to instill focus from distraction, because the dog hones in on the prey mode and gets oblivious to everything else around it because the prey mode is so strong. Well, they do that with cats too. Okay? So we're going to bring this cat up. Now, the other piece of the story is my Rottweiler Bear, who, because I learned the hard way, used to focus on my cats too when he was a puppy. But I did something different. Every time he focused on the cat, I'd say, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Look at me." Anytime he failed to look at me, he would immediately go downstairs and sleep down there for 2 days. The next day we would try it again. When all was said and done, my Rottweiler could sleep with a cat laying on his head. And if he as much as looked at a cat in my home, it was funny because the one gray cat I have, Eek, is about 13 or 14. If Eek stands at the top of a stairwell and hisses at Bear, Bear immediately runs downstairs when he was alive. Okay? The cat began to realize that she would do everything she possibly could do to get that Rottweiler into trouble. All right, and cats do that. They'll sit and paw a dog on the head. They'll sit and do this. You can't train and control cats, guys, but you can definitely control a dog. All right? Another story with cats was my father's cat and my two shepherds when I was living with him. And I had not brand new, I have a collector car, a 71 Z28. You guys know what that is? It's a very expensive car. 4-speed, rare item. It's all apart now. But when it was together, I had my two shepherds and my dad had a white cat. And this white cat would ride along the fence of the yard and the dogs would focus. And he would be just high enough to swat old Tripper in the head and then stand back there. One time I had the car outside buried by a tarp, and the cat's inside the wheel well, and every time the dog's going by, all right, the cat would pound the dog in the head with his paw. You guys ever seen that? Well, I'll tell you, to make a long story short, it was a particularly cold night. And it wasn't really a cold night, and I got home at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had a few drinks, and I didn't want to wake my parents up. So I said to the dogs, I said, okay, guys, we're not going to wake up Mom and Dad because I don't want to get in trouble. So I said, you guys sleep in the garage tonight. It was a heated garage. Well, what I didn't know is that Whitey was in the garage, too. Oh, no, don't hiss. This is a funny story. Luckily, the garage had a loft. Okay? Well, I put my two dogs in the garage, and my Z28 was in there. What? You guys can just imagine what happened to my paint job. I woke up in the morning and opened the door, and my German Shepherd sitting on the roof of my custom car. Did I blame the dogs? I took one look at that cat and I said, you're lucky Dad likes you in this house. I had to skin you and made you into gloves, you little SOB. All in all, we can see what the object of these stories is where one became a plaything, okay, and turned into a nightmare because of prey. The other one was seeing a dog focus on a cat and understanding full well that because I controlled the dog, the cat never got hurt. They lived harmoniously. But the dog also knew his position in the family pack, and basically the cat was above it. I don't mind the cat being above it in a sense, because the cat's weak. And 3, the final piece is being loose in the backyard with a cat that's teasing and bugging them, and eventually my car got destroyed.